Hi, welcome to Echoes from the Satellite. I'm Karen, and today we're going to be talking about, surprise, surprise, Murderbot, both the book series, Murderbot Diaries, and the new Apple TV series, Murderbot. I do want to say, I'm doing this a little bit differently today. You can already tell probably my setup is a little different. I had already made a video for this and went in, loaded it up to YouTube, and it looked horrible. So I'm having some difficulties with the tools I'm using. I've been trying to use a lot of free tools, and I think that that may just be an issue for me. I may have to actually spend some money on this gig. So I hope you'll bear with me as I muddle my way through learning how to use all these different video and audio tools. But that being said, I'm going to try and get through this today and get this video out. It's been a very frustrating experience for me, but I do want to talk about Murderbot since the series is out on Apple TV, and I know a lot of folks, this may be their first introduction to Murderbot, but not for me. I have been there since the first book, All Systems Red, which came out in 2017. This is a series by Martha Wells. I have loved reading these books, actually novellas, most of them. There's only been, I think, 2 in the series that have been full-length novels. And so I've been reading from All Systems Red through all 7 books, which the latest here is System Collapse, which came out in 2023. And I would highly recommend the books. I find them to be incredibly entertaining, great read if you really like your science fiction more on the sort of action side of things. So I can definitely recommend the book. Now, when I heard, or the books, when I heard that they were going to make a Murderbot series, my first reaction, being a rather cynical person, was I really hope they don't screw it up. And I've seen 3 episodes of the TV series now, and unfortunately, for me, I think they screwed it up. And I hate to say this because I really like Apple TV. I've had it for about 6 months now, and I've been watching a lot of different shows on there. They have some great science fiction shows. We've watched Silo, watching Foundation right now. I watched For All Mankind. I really liked For All Mankind. But they also have other good shows. We, like everybody else, watched Ted Lasso, enjoyed that, and watching Shrinking. So they have a lot of stuff on there that I like, and I think they do typically all around a good job with production, writing, acting, etc. However, you can tell there's a however in here, right? That being said, I was really surprised when I started hearing things about the Murderbot series. And those 2 things really, the 2 things that really made me feel a little nervous was the casting of the main actor and then the tone of the series. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So the Murderbot character, for those of you who don't know about the series, let me try to explain it as succinctly as possible. It takes place in the future, far future, where humanity is spacefaring and colonizing worlds and such. And a lot of this colonization is done through corporations. And as we all know, corporations are evil. And anyway, some of the groups that go out to do the colonizing, they will contract with these corporations to get a robot, essentially a robot, a protective robot, a security unit, sec unit, to go with them to provide protection on these alien worlds, which can be very wild and rugged and unsafe for them to be exploring. Now, these sec units are essentially robots, but they also have some human components. They are made to look human-like, so they have skin, they have faces, but they are essentially robots or AIs, however you want to think about it, embodied AIs. And they are controlled by what are called governor units in their brains, their robot brains, to make sure that they can't go out of control, that they follow very specific routines, and so forth. The main character in this story, who does call itself Murderbot for specific story reasons, which I don't want to explain, if just in case you're either watching the show or reading the books. Murderbot was able to hack its own governor unit such that it now is in control of its own actions. But it's been keeping it secret because it doesn't want to get shut down or destroyed or anything like that. And even though it now has autonomy, it's sort of, I won't say it doesn't know what to do with it, but it decides rather than running off and pursuing some life of its own, it just decides that basically what it really wants to do most of the time is just plug into the network and watch the equivalent of TV shows or soap operas. That's its main interest. It really doesn't want to interact with other people or with people, human beings. It'll do its job, but it wants to spend as much time possible just sort of watching these shows and avoiding contact. So in the story, it eventually winds up with a particular group, and that's what happens in these first episodes. It's really retelling the All Systems Red story. So what's my problem with all this? Okay, to get to my first issue with this, the actor. Okay, there he is, right? Alexander Skarsgård. Now I'll say that I let's see. Here we go. And that it's a little blurry. Sorry about that. I really like Alexander Skarsgård. I enjoyed his performance. I think the first place I ever saw him was in True Blood, where he played Eric Northman, the Viking vampire. And of course, he's been in a lot of other things since then. However, you knew there was a however. Murderbot, as it is depicted in the books, is decidedly non-human. So even though it has some human tissue and things like that, so that it looks somewhat human, it's not human. And not only is it not human, these sec units, they have no gender. So they're neither male or female. They have no sexual organs, and they have decidedly, sec unit is really not interested in anything romantic, anything sexual. That all that stuff is a big turnoff to the sec unit. Okay, so I suppose in my mind, and I think everyone I've talked to who has read the books, we all have an image in our heads of what the sec unit looks like, what Murderbot looks like. And I can tell you it was not Alexander Skarsgård, who, when he played Tarzan years ago, they were plastering his near naked image everywhere. He not only had a 6-pack, I think he had an 8-pack. I mean, this guy is absolutely built and like a example of like perfect male physique. So it's hard to correlate that in my brain with what my image, based on what I was reading in the books, of sort of a synthetic, human android appearance. And they don't really do anything with his appearance in the show to kind of let you know he's not human. Like you can see his face here again, bad image. I thought it would look better. It doesn't look better. Again, growing pains. Apologize for that. There's one scene in one episode where after he's been attacked, he's essentially regenerating tissue and stuff, and you see him nude, unclothed, whatever. And yes, he looks like a Ken doll. But I really feel like they could have gone with maybe a more unusual looking actor or actress, somebody to kind of portray this character who is an it. It calls itself an it. To get across that non-human nature. And I will give Skarsgård points. He does do a good job of portraying the fact that Murderbot is very uncomfortable around humans. Murderbot does not want to share anything about itself. Murderbot doesn't want to, have any contact with people. Murderbot is really uncomfortable in social situations. And I think this is also part of the appeal of the character. Certainly to a lot of us, uh, who are science fiction fans and maybe geeks and nerds, maybe not always the best in social situations. We may be introverted. And so understanding that sort of difficulty in these situations. And I know from doing some reading and also seeing a lot of people online and their comments, some folks who are on the autism spectrum say that they have a certain, they can relate to the character because they see certain aspects of themselves maybe in the character. So there's a lot there that appeals about the character, and I think Skarsgård is trying to portray a lot of that. But I just think visually, it's like, wow, he just looks like an action hero, and that was really hard for me to connect with. And then I just think my other problem with this, which I think is a much bigger problem than the actor, to be honest, is that for some strange reason they have decided to make this a comedy, which I don't get. The books are not comedies. There's elements, there's comedic elements, humorous elements, because when Murderbot is making observations about the humans around him or the situations around it, Murderbot, can be very snarky, sarcastic, and so forth. But as far as it being a comedy, these books are really what I would think of as sort of action adventure stories. There's usually some sort of mystery or problem that has to be resolved. Murderbot will work with either the humans that it's with or the other AIs. There's a really intriguing partnership that it develops with a sentient starship. So there's a lot of things like that in there that develop, and seeing Murderbot develop and grow as a character, as an entity, and being able to establish relationships is another thing that's interesting over the course of the stories. But in the TV series, they start this out as a comedy. The crew that he's with in the first, I guess, season, which is replicating All Systems Red, are portrayed as a bunch of like fumbling, incompetent hippies, which is as far from the book as possible. The people he was with in the first book were all very competent, capable professionals. So I don't understand why they felt the need to change things and portray them this way. And for me, I don't know, it's a huge turnoff. And everything seems to, have to be really just goofy and sort of, I don't know, when everybody's portrayed as buffoonish, it just takes a lot away from the stories for me. So yeah, that was a real shock, and just all the marketing for it, really plays up this angle of sheer goofiness. So very disappointed with that, and I am just baffled why they would go that direction. Now I will say, just because that's my opinion, I don't want to discourage anybody from watching the show. I think you should make up your own mind. And so whether you've read the books already or you've never seen it, go check it out. Maybe if you haven't read the books, you may find this very enjoyable. And if you've read the books, you may still find it very enjoyable. So, but I would like to hear from people. I would love to hear your thoughts. I've talked to a couple of friends and who've read the books and gotten their opinions, and I'd just love to get some more input on it and see where people are at. I do appreciate that we have just a ton of sci-fi available to us now, on television. There was a time where I'd be begging to see any kind of science fiction program. So I do appreciate that we have so much to choose from. I would have loved to have seen this translated the way that I imagined it, but who knows? We'll see where it goes. I'm not giving up on it. That's all I have on that this time around. I am working on putting together an episode about 2001, both the film and also the written word, and how the stories of Arthur C. Clarke sort of contributed to 2001, but also how the novelization changed because of things happening during filming. So that's a little bit of a project, and it's taking me a little while, but hopefully I'll have that put together soon. Thanks to all of you who have been watching, subscribing, and sending me comments. Really appreciate it. I really enjoy hearing from you, and hope that you're all doing well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you the next time around.